Psalm 91. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in Him I will trust. Surely He shall deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the perilous pestilence. He shall cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you shall take refuge. His truth shall be your shield and buckler. You shall not be afraid of the terror by night, nor of the arrow that flies by day, nor of the pestilence that walks in darkness, nor of the destruction that lays waste at noonday. 1,000 may fall at your side, and 10,000 at your right hand, but it shall not come near you. Only with your eyes shall you look and see the reward of the wicked. Because you have made the Lord, who is my refuge, even the Most High, your dwelling place. No evil shall befall you, nor shall any plague come near you, your dwelling. For He shall give His angels charge over you, to keep you in all your ways. In their hands they shall bear you up, lest you dash your foot against a stone. You shall tread upon the lion and the cobra, the young lion and the serpent you shall trample underfoot. Because He has set His love upon me, therefore I will deliver him. I will set him on high, because he has known my name. He shall call upon me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. With long life I will satisfy him and show him my salvation.
And we want to welcome all of His Glory Nation from east to west to north to south. Welcome to today's second Take 5. We started today's Take 5 with Julie Green, so you can pick that up. Yesterday we had Sarah Palin on, so if you missed that, Sarah Palin was in rare form, so go back and look at this. We're going to have Andrew Sorchini and Polny talking about silver, gold, the markets. I'm going to get their take on what I was told over the weekend about the bankers. So we'll get into that. A lot going on, and give you an update on where the gold coin is. We got some good news on the gold coin. It's coming soon. All right, quickly through our communications. Revival Tour, April 1st in Mount Pleasant, Texas. That's our property in Texas. My wife and I will be heading out of here in the next 2 weeks to head to Texas until at least summertime. So our first revival tour is in Mount Pleasant, Texas, April the 1st. Chris Burgard will be there. Nick Searcy will be there. Ohio Brett will be there. Scott McKay will be there. Derek Johnson will be there. Manuel Johnson will be there. Pastor Todd Coconato will be there. And there are more to come. There's a couple people I was talking to on the way down that may be coming to the tent revival too. So this is our first one for 2023. This will be the second state that we have done. It'll be Texas, and then we're going to hit all 48 other states. I was communicating to General Flynn on the way back from Israel, and General Flynn does want to join us at these events. He's going to try to get as many to these events as we possibly can. And good news, it looks like there's a good shot that we're going to get a call in on April 1st from President Trump. So hang on, it's going to be a good day there. That wraps up the communications for today. Take 5, Andrew Sorchini with Beverly Hills Precious Metals and Polny. Welcome back, both of you. How are you?
Great. Doing great. Thanks for having us.
Exciting times, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
The world is changing quickly.
It's just amazing. I just got back from Israel, and I tried to keep up as much as I could, but in 2 weeks, I was there for 13 days. In 13 days, so much information has come out. It's just mind-blowing.
Oh, yes. One of the things that blew my mind this week was a Wall Street Journal article about something that we've talked about for the last year. And the headline says that Russia turns to China's yuan in an effort to ditch the dollar. I mean, for us, this is old news.
Yep.
It's just what's significant about this article to me is that now what's considered mainstream media is picking up what used to be stories touted by conspiracy theorists. So we've seen this happen with all the topics that we've talked about for the last 2 years. So I think that we're always on the right track and we're always ahead of the curve.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. We just saw yesterday, if you watched the Brett Baer interview with Christopher Wray, the FBI admitted that it was from Wuhan. You know, a conspiracy theory on that has not been proven true. He got caught in a lie. So all this stuff that they called us crazy about years ago is now all of it's coming true.
Yeah, it's called conspiracy theory becomes conspiracy fact.
Right. Right. And faster and faster and faster. The speed of all this stuff coming out is amazing right now.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, and it's just like when you look at all the things that are happening across the United States, right? So they're doing, just so people know why is all this happening, you know, as unfortunate a lot of it is, you have to, when something bad is happening to them, they create distraction, right? So they want you to look this way rather than that way, you know. So a lot of truths are coming out, and so in reaction, they're causing this pandemonium and chaos across the United States. So you look in the other direction. And that's all that's happening right now. You know, you can compare this to what was happening. Like, you know, look what happened to Pharaoh before he went down, right? God hit him up with plagues. So, you know, we're seeing all of these crazy things manifest across the United States right now. But basically, you know, some, you know, sad as whatever it is, the point is we're kind of coming into this area of time where the world's about to shift.
It is shifting. I talked to that same banker that was telling me he's not a Christian. He's not into any of this stuff. He just flat out looks at numbers and cycles, and that's all he does. And he's been a friend for a long time. He called the exact day, Bo, that you talked about in September 24th, that day when the market went down. He called it like 2 weeks before, just on his charts. He told me again this weekend, it's crashing and nothing's going to be able to stop it.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. And it's not so much, and the essence is, it's not the stock market that everybody, you know, everybody needs to get their eyes off the stock market because that's so unimportant. Because, like, what happened, Pastor Dave and Andrew, you know, you can confirm this, but, you know, in the cycles pointed to in the year 2020. So in February, I was out saying, you know, in next month, within 30 days, we're going to have possibly 30 to 40% crash on the U.S. stock market. So we'll end up being 38%, right? And so, you know, yeah, that was a big crash in the stock market, but who cares? Because look where we're at today. Has anything changed, right? Because what do? When the stock market crashes, that weekend they printed $7-8 trillion. They pushed it back into the stock market, right? And then everything's fixed. You see, because of what Nixon did in 71, he detached us off the gold standard. That caused the money system to be what's called fiat money. But fiat, in my definition, would be satanic. And why I say that is because it has no correlation to God's money, which is stated in Haggai 2, verse 8, the silver and the gold are mine, saith the Lord. Even if there was a 1% correlation, you know, for every $100, there's just $1 attachment to gold, right? There's still some relationship. But right now, as of Nixon, there's zero relationship. And so because of that, there's no attachment to gold, which means that they can make as much as they want. If there was a 1% relationship,
Right.
then they could only make, you know, one. There would still always have to be, for every dollar they create, it had to be 1% related to gold, right? And so that would limit their ability to create money out of thin air. But because there's zero relationship, they can make as much of it as they want, and that's exactly what they've been doing. So what happened in the stock market crash of 2020? You know, they create 7-8 trillion over the weekend, push it back in the stock market, everything's finished. See, so it's not so people need to get their eyes off the stock market, and the only thing that matters is the world's reserve currency, the US dollar. Okay, that's all that matters, because if the world reserve currency loses, say, 1/3 of its value suddenly, okay, then everything priced in the US dollar, I'm going to say this slowly, everything priced in the US dollar, stocks, bonds, real estate, mortgages, everything gets a sudden 1/3 haircut overnight. Okay. And then, but that's not even the biggie. The world will come to realize the dollar was a fraud.
Yeah.
And it will lose its status as the world reserve currency. Now, this is about to happen because the BRICS are about to attack the dollar. So when the US dollar loses its status as the world reserve currency, their ability. So even if you was another stock market crash, they can create all the money they want, but now the world knows the dollar's a fraud. Right. So it's like, when it's the truth comes out, the truth will set you free, it states in the Bible. So when the truth comes out that the dollar has been created out of thin air, they've been making it, to infinity, and now it loses its status as a world reserve currency. It's going to be a historic worldwide event. So this will be a collapse of the worldwide financial system, not going to zero, but literally, it's going to cause the banks to close
Yep.
because they've leveraged this. Maybe Andrew, if you can expand on this, but they use what's called derivative contracts, and they've expanded. So a 30% haircut on the US dollar would be maybe a 3,000% haircut on derivatives because they leverage it 100-fold on some of these derivatives. So 30% could be a 300 or 3,000 or a 30,000% leverage on some of these derivative contracts, which would literally bankrupt financial institutions. So people who haven't prepared for what's coming, many millions of people are potentially about to lose everything financially because the banks and everything are about to get shut and they're going to close. That's going to break the bonds, and which means mortgages get broken. Everything that we know is going to financially collapse. This will be, what was written on the wall. Many tekel offshore scheme. You've been weighed in the balances by God. You, meaning the world financial system, these Babylonians, they have been weighed in the balances by God, and they have been found wanting, meaning that their kingdom is they've printed too much money, and now God's going to bring their kingdom to an end. And that's the way that God is going to intervene to stop these people. Because if the dollar doesn't crash, the stock market crash 1,000 times, will just keep creating money out of thin air. And nothing changes, right? So the dollar must lose its status as the world reserve currency. And why do we look what we're seeing happen right now? We literally have seen, when Nixon took us off the gold standard in 1971, August 15th. Well, August 15th of 2021, Kabul fell to the exact day. 9 days later, there's an agreement signed between Saudi Arabia and Russia. And this is huge because when this happened, I literally had several interviews lined up. And that day I was screaming about it, making a big deal about it, because my simple question to the world was very simple. Why would Saudi Arabia sign a contract with a superpower like Russia if they already have one with the superpower?
Right.
Right? But obviously, they just felt like the United States, with Biden in charge, right, has just abandoned their neighbors. So how would you feel if your neighbor was just abandoned and you could be next, right? So you're going to look to your neighbor. So you're going to look to somebody, another superpower, sign a military contract, and boom, they sign a military contract 9 days later. And what I've noticed basically with regard to cycles, within 2 years of contracts being signed, okay, or within 2 years of events happen, just like when Roe v. Wade, just like when Ginsburg died, within 2 years, Roe v. Wade was overturned. So this August will be 2 years of that military contract. So I'm telling you, by this summer, the US dollar will have collapsed. It will have lost its status as the world reserve currency, and gold and silver will have done a moonshot, and therefore, that's why we talk with Andrew.
Yeah. So before Andrew answers this, I don't know if this is in your pattern, but the emails we get, it seems like December, January, people, for whatever reason, didn't get into silver and gold as much, whether it was the holidays or things were going to smooth out. But there seems to be a sense of urgency picking up all of a sudden that people want to get into silver and gold.
Yeah, that's what I'm finding out as well. Usually January is the biggest month for silver and gold. And exactly what you said is what happened. December and January were not the strongest months. It was an unusual period. And I think that the truth is settling in as to what a difficult road we have ahead of us post-COVID. So as of February, though, we're seeing a huge increase in gold and silver. People are very, very worried. They've capitalized on the bounce in the stock market, which is just a temporary one.
Yep.
And they're seeing it as a second chance to get out without losing as much as they have from where it was, say, 6 months ago. And to Bo's point, I read something very similar yesterday on Zero Hedge. It was an article by Peter Schiff, and he was saying that we should view inflation as a tax. He says because that's basically what it is. If the government alternatively could tax us 20% and not have to print as much money, but by printing money and making inflation go up by 20% which is what most of us agree that's how much more things cost this year than this time last year. It's like a reverse tax, and we should look at it that way. And this is he goes on to say that this is we need to let the phony economy collapse so that we could build a real economy on the rubble of the economic house of cards. And that's almost exactly what Bo just said.
Yep.
And as grim as this sounds, it's really, there is light at the end of the tunnel because there is a solution. And in that gray area from now until then, people should protect themselves and have some investments that are out of the centralized banking system. And I'm not talking about Bitcoin. I do like cryptocurrency, but it's not for everyone because of the huge swings. Mm-hmm. So gold and silver seem to be where you could have a true store of value until things get to where we know that they should be and eventually will get to.
Would you recommend people weighting having a heavier weight into silver and gold as far as their balance?
I think that if people are thinking of committing funds that they have toward gold and silver, they need to, before they make that purchase, they should consider how soon they will need those funds turned back into cash. So if they're speculators, then I would say go heavy on gold and silver, because silver has a better chance to double or triple, or as Bo knows, could go 20 times higher, really in the short term. But some people that invest in silver might have to access those funds 6 months from now. And if you're having to sell silver 6 months after you just bought it, almost always you would sell it at a loss because it's so heavily manipulated.
Right.
So if someone, say, for example, just sold a house, if you had a rental home and you've decided, I don't want to have this rental home anymore, I would like to sell it, and you sell it, and now you've got a big chunk of cash sitting in the bank, and now that's making you nervous, then I would put that into gold, because gold isn't going to move much. And when it does move, if you give it enough time, it is going to go up just very slowly. So to me, that's a good, safe store of value. And somebody that might need to access those funds that are now in gold, say 3 to 6 months from now, I feel that they won't take a haircut at all when they sell it.
And Bo, you were talking about a couple shows ago about strategically at a point that you thought people should get out of silver and then take those proceeds and get into gold.
Right. See, all I look at is you have to always step back before you make a decision, look at the big picture of things, right? And so silver to gold ratios, no matter where you look, meaning in ground. So how did God do it? So typically the ratio is when they go mine for gold or silver, okay, they pull out gold. For every ounce of gold that they end up getting out of the ground, they typically would get around 10 ounces of silver. Some might argue 15. Doesn't matter, okay, because right now the ratio is 80, okay? So the ratio itself is around 10 to 15 to 1 for every ounce of gold. So the point being is the bankers, the manipulators, hate precious metals, number one, and they despise silver. It's the people's money, and ultimately it's the bank killer, okay? So they've manipulated, so as bad as they manipulate gold prices, they manipulate silver roughly 8 times worse, which means that right now at 80 to 1, you can go sell an ounce of gold today and roughly buy, depending on the spreads, but roughly just ballpark, you can maybe pick up around 80 ounces of silver, maybe 70. Okay, so that's what the spread means. Basically, an 80 to 1 ratio means you can sell 1 ounce of gold and then pick up maybe 70 to 80 ounces of silver, depending on the spread. So that's insane. Like, what a deal. And now how you play that would be right. So just like in the last move, what happened was in the year 2011, so I was using Daniel's cycle of time, and I was able to calculate the exact day silver topped. So it went up to $49 and it topped. And it's crazy because basically from the prior top, all I ran was 1,260 days forward. And I was the only guy in the world that didn't have a call on the exact day silver topped. Went down to LA, been over and didn't know Andrew at the time. I sold all my silver at $49. The guy's like, "You sure you want to do that?" I go, "Yeah, I'll be back to buy it cheaper." And then I literally sold it at the top the last day. And then 4 months later, because silver tops first, gold tops second, and 4 months later, another 1,260-day cycle, gold topped to the exact day at like 1,900 roughly dollars in 2011, and that was in September 6th. So it's incredible, but basically the point is when silver went up to $49, it hit a ratio of about 30 to 1. So it went from, from say 80, 70 to 1, it went all the way to 30 to 1. So what you could have done at that time, you could have sold all of your silver, right? Which I could have done, and bought gold as an example, but I didn't, right? But the point is you could have put it into gold and you would have got for every, so you would have got an ounce of gold for only 30 ounces of silver.
Wow.
Get it? Versus 80. So the answer to your question is, at an 80 to 1 ratio roughly right now, I didn't check what it is today, but I know it's right around 80-ish, so 75 to 80, something like that. So the point is, in terms of positioning yourself, I would look at it as if I'm going to invest my money, I would put it into the one that's manipulated the most because it has the greatest upside. Now, when silver does spike with gold, because when gold goes, silver is gold on steroids. That was a term by Jim St. Clair, I believe. And so silver is going to be gold on steroids. It's going to go multiples of what gold's going to do. And at some point, we're going to get to 30 to 1. Now, on this, see, this is the difference this time, right? We're about to see, based on my calculation, the collapse of the Daniel 2 statue. This is the fall of Mystery Babylon. We're about to see the fall of Babylon. Babylon uses paper for money, fake money. God's kingdom, a kingdom economy, is a kingdom of real money, gold and silver. So when Babylon falls, these controlling entities that manipulate the price of everything are about to fall, be destroyed, and literally run for the hills if they weren't destroyed. Okay. So when this happens, you're going to see silver and gold lose price controls. And they're going to do the moonshot you've never seen before. We've never witnessed before. We're going to see literally a gold, silver having dollar days. It's going to go maybe $1 one day, $3 the next, $5 the next, 20 the next. It might do all that in a single day. It's just going to be doing that, and it's going to keep leaping forward. And it's going to approach, then it's going to go, 40 to 1, 30 to 1. And so we could at some point, because it's been manipulated for centuries, silver, we could see silver go 10 to 1 back to normal. It could, and you can go from here, it could for a short window go 1 to 1 with gold.
Wow.
It could go 1 to 1 with gold. So if gold is 20,000, 30,000, guess we're 1 to 1. That will put silver at that mark. Okay. So no one knows, but I'm telling you, silver has been manipulated for centuries. When they lose control of precious metals, gold's going to go crazy and silver is just going to do as crazy as gold's going to go, silver is going to be on fire. In terms of what it's going to be doing with regards to prices. So exciting times ahead. And that's why like these economists are on the news and they're talking, but see, they don't realize from a biblical perspective what that means. See, no one really fathoms because they're looking at reality as they see it. When you turn your TV on, what you've normally seen in the markets all your life, okay? But when God intervenes, everything that we've perceived to be normal, right, becomes it's a no, everything changes. So the market moves that we've seen historically become moot point because God's going to make impossible things happen. Meaning that when this thing breaks forward, Matthew says blessings are 30, 60, 100-fold. What does that mean? It means that God's a multiplier. And so when God's money breaks free of price manipulation because Babylon falls, the first level would be damages not 7% or 70%, no, 7-fold damages. That would put silver immediately around $140 immediately, very quickly. And then blessings would be 30. That would take silver to $600 $800. Okay, and then that would narrow the ratio. So by that time, you might see gold to silver ratio maybe 40-1. And that be the case, then gold would probably be, $5,000. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So we're going to see incredible moves on both. It's just that your long answer short, silver has been manipulated more than gold for centuries. So when Babylon falls, and that's what no one understands. The economists, when you watch TV, no one understands what it means when God intervenes, because God's been sitting on his throne watching for centuries, David. You know that.
Yep.
And we're about to see Isaiah 61 fulfilled. Okay. So we're not seeing this is not going to be the return of Christ. We are going to see the completion and the complete fulfillment of Isaiah 61. And Isaiah 61 was the year of the Lord's favor. That's what Christ read in the temple, but he never finished it. So this time, this will be the glory manifesting on earth. And the last line was in the day of vengeance of our God. So we are about to witness the glory manifest on earth, completing and fulfilling Isaiah 61.
Yeah, and while I was in Israel, we went to the Qumran cave, and then we went to the Israeli museum where Isaiah's scroll is there, 61. We were able to read it right there.
Oh my gosh! Wow,
It's dated back to, they believe, 450 BC, 450 years before Christ was even born. There it is, the Bible coming along. So we know J.P. Morgan is one of the biggest hedgers of that. They own how much silver, Andrew?
Last I heard was 600 million ounces of physical silver. And when we saw silver hit the recent high, which, Bo, I believe it was 24.50 an ounce, and that was just a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
The article, the news that I had read was JP Morgan dumped a bunch of silver derivatives at that time to help drive the price down. And it's just outrageous. It's for people out there that might not know exactly what derivatives are, there's several different types, but in layman's terms, they're side bets against investments that banks make. So for example, during the the financial crisis that led up to 2008, or during that time when the they had subprime mortgages everywhere, the banks were lending anybody out there money to buy a home, even if they couldn't afford it. And it's not that the banks weren't smart, it's just they had derivative investments where those derivative investments paid off more for them if people defaulted on their homes than if they actually paid them off. And there's many other investments like that. It applies to precious metals, it applies to oil and gas, and many other types of investments. It's how the banks hedge their bets. And it's just, you never really heard about them before 2008, but now it's commonplace. And after this next collapse, that you won't hear derivatives anymore. They'll give it a new word and repackage it as a new type of investment.
So what you just said was confirmed by the banker I talked to over the weekend. He said that J.P. Morgan did dump a bunch to keep that price down, and he says they're not going to be able to do it. Maybe one more time, but they're out of tricks.
Yep.
A couple things I want to add. So if Andrew gets my pattern work right, and what was supposed to happen in February, right? Gold was supposed to go down, right? Up until the end of the month, right around the 28th. And look what it did. The day before it turned up. Okay, so perfect pattern play out the entire month of February. We've got an upcycle developing right now in precious metals. There's this next leg up. This is the one. Okay, we're going to get a little pullback yet. A few more days, going to go up and a little pullback, and then that's about it. When this thing goes, it's going to be biblical. What's about to happen here now, March into April into May. So it's going to be crazy what's coming, and those that are prepared are just really going to be celebrating like they've never celebrated before. You did say, how many ounces of silver does JP Morgan have?
600 million physical ounces.
And I want to read this to you. Pastor Dave, you're going to love this. Ecclesiastes 2, verse 26. To the person who pleases God, he gives wisdom, knowledge, and happiness. but to the sinner. He gives the task of gathering up and storing up wealth. How many ounces?
600 million.
Wow.
To hand over to the ones who please God. JP Morgan's going to lose everything. It's biblically stated, Ecclesiastes 2, verse 26. So good luck to the sinners. They have played this manipulation game for generations. And when God intervenes, when Isaiah 61 is fulfilled, Proverbs 13:22, the wealth of the sinner goes to the church, the righteous, the ones that please God.
I think that's so
This is going to be
important.
a year we're never going to forget.
That's so important that you mentioned that, Bo, because when we took the trip to Israel, we just came back. 200. We had a group of 200, and I'd say 30% of the people have bought silver and gold, and every one of them are storing up and buying that silver and gold not for their own financial wealth. They're doing it for this great revival that's upon us. That's why they're doing
That's right.
it. That's why God is
Yep.
going to put it back to the righteous
Right.
owner.
So the way to best describe this is land or Lambos, Lamborghinis, right?
Yep.
It's a nice little mnemonic you can use, right? But the church, the bride, is going to use the money because the wealth of the sinner. Now we know they've created trillions. Andrew, Pastor Dave, trillions are coming to the church. Not billions, not millions. Trillions are coming to the church. The wealth of the sinner is stored up for the righteous. It's coming to the church. And those that are wise will be buying land to what? Separate ourselves from the world, because we're to be in the world and not of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's how this is laid out. God laid it out for us. There will be, and then the banking institutions will lose everything. And then there will be those who will use this money to buy Lamborghinis, right?
Yep.
But ultimately, they're going to be stuck in the cities. And understand, we're not stopping Revelation. This financial event is the third seal of Revelation. It's the third seal. It's the black horse with scale. The rider's got scales in his hands, which means that what? You still got the fourth seal coming, plague and pestilence. Okay. Where's plague and pestilence going to be? In the cities. Okay. And then you got 5, 6, and 7 seals yet to open in the future. So other things are coming in the future. So we're not out of this. Okay. We're not out of this as incredible these next few years are going to be. We're not out of this until when? Until Jesus Christ returns.
Exactly.
Until the King returns, okay? So it doesn't matter how much money you have, because ultimately what matters is where you are with God and what you're doing to build his kingdom. Because the money is to be used, and I think you'll like this the best, right? The money is to be used no different. When who was in the wilderness? John the Baptist was in the wilderness, struggling to prepare the way for the Lord. The money that's coming is no different than that. We are going to be blessed financially to what? Prepare the way for the King.
Yep. Exactly. Andrew, we get asked this all the time. What do I do with silver and gold? I just saw an article just since I got back from Israel that 20 states are now okayed using silver and gold as currency. People are purchasing things with it. That's 20 states.
That's amazing. Texas was one of the first one of the first that I ever heard about, and it's I think the biggest roadblock to that, it really isn't much of one, but it's people will need some way to understand what the value of each item that they have is. But as we start to head closer to a collapse of the dollar, it will become much more clear. And that's something I'm glad that you brought this up, because people ask that all the time.
All the time.
How will I know how much my silver is worth? And because there's so many different types. You can have 90% silver dimes, quarters, half dollars. You can have Morgan and Peace silver dollars like the one you have there.
Yep.
You can have silver eagles, or the 2-ounce General Flynn silver
I have
coin.
the General Flynn too.
So when we get to a point to where it becomes more advantageous to transact with silver, it will become much more clear. I'll bet you that that even on your show, for each show, you will probably give the information that says, today a 90% silver quarter is worth $6,
Yep.
or today a General Flynn 2-ounce silver coin is going for X amount. And so for people that ask that, it's not information that we need to know now, but you could barter it anytime if you know the current value and the person that you're giving that silver to for a good or service understands that value. And that's all it takes is just two people. And there are people like that. And even one of the guys that is on the tour sometimes, Everett Triplett, he was a client of ours, and he tries to buy as many things with silver as he possibly can, even for his business. And he does it just to prove a point.
Yep.
And that people don't want him to reverse those deals. They love it.
Yep. So we also
I can probably expand on that as well too, because remember, when the dollar loses its status as the world reserve currency, then silver and gold become the currency. Get it? You revert back to real money. And what does that mean? Well, it means that when you go to the department store, you don't need to worry about it so much because the department stores are going to know what it's worth. The grocery store is going to know what the ounce of silver is going for that day. Okay, so you're not going to need to worry about it so much because they'll be taking care of it for you. That's my belief. Number one, yes, you should also check yourself so someone doesn't take advantage of you. But I'm telling you, the grocery stores and the stores will be accepting it as payment because they will know the value each and every day. And then secondly, don't be surprised that when the financial institutions blow up, okay, new ones will rise and you'll be able to go to that banking institution like you did a long time ago, drop off a piece of gold, and they'll give you an exchange of paper for it. But these new paper instruments will be backed because we're going to go back to the gold standard. These new paper instruments will be backed by gold. So they'll be possibly maybe treasury instruments or something like this, but they'll be actually backed by gold. And so you'll be able to, again, back to some kind of a transaction system that is very easy. And then ultimately cryptocurrencies will be one of the, the new way people will be transacting as well too. But the bottom line is the way we transact today is about to come to an end. Okay, the way we transact today is about to come to an end. And the big thing here, and I know this is, we talked about on the tour quite a bit, and a lot of interviews that people are doing, they're talking about that central bank digital CB digital currency, CBDC, right?
Yep.
So you have to understand, as much as that's a reality and a real thing, I want to be very clear about this. When silver breaks vertical with gold, when silver and gold explode, who's doing the planning for the central bank digital currencies? The central banks. They just blew up.
Yep.
So what happened to the plans they had with the central bank currency? It blew up with them. So the central bank digital currency system will fail because the banks blow up. The bankers, the central bankers that are doing this, they blow up, and their plan, their scheme to bring in a one world government blows up. And they go into hiding, the ones that remain. So people are so freaked out about the central bank digital currency, you have to understand God's plan. They came early when when silver is $600 an ounce. The bankers are gone, people. The banking system, is gone. So don't be excited. It's going to be a little difficult to transact. It'll be a little difficult to, because the world's going to be different. It's not going to be an easy world because there's a lot of new things we're going to need to adapt and change and learn a new system of how to deal with and how to transact. But the point is, the ones that were doing that were running their plan about, their digital currency, they're gone. What does light do to darkness, right? It exposes what their plans were. And remember, we're talking about it right now because why? They're at peak arrogance. They're at peak amount of pride right now. And David, what does it say in the Bible about pride? Pride cometh before the
fall.
There you go.
Yep. And there was a hot mic just last week, Jamie Dimon being prideful, saying they can't do anything to us. They can't do anything to us. Well, yeah, God can, and it's coming.
This is the wild part, and please take it from here, Pastor Dave. But think about this, right? Their enemy. This is like the greatest way I can state this. Their enemy it's us, but it's not. Their enemy is the creator, who knows what they're thinking and planning and plotting. He knows what they're doing, and that's their enemy. And for him to be that arrogant and say they can't stop us, he obviously is about to have a come to God moment, come to Jesus moment, because when God intervenes, when Isaiah 61 is fulfilled, the day of vengeance, the David, this is going to be a 24-hour window,
Yep.
because that's all God's ever needed to flip the tables on the world on how it operates.
It's heating up right now. So, Andrew, what kind of action points would you tell the audience to take?
Well, people should reach out to us at bh-pm.com. Right on the homepage, we have a form where you could fill out your first name, last name, telephone number, email address, and there's a little section for notes. And we're getting a lot of people reach out, as we always do, that want to learn how to convert their existing 401k or IRA into an IRA that holds precious metals. And you can do that. And these are not paper precious metals. These are not, it's not a paper investment. These are physical gold and silver in a lockbox with your name on it. And the fees are minimal. So if you're interested in learning about that, put that in the notes section. If you've purchased gold and silver before and would like to invest in some more, let us know that. If you're a complete novice and don't understand at all how it works, let us know that. We have different specialists that can help every type of investor out there. And the more information that you can give us, the better that we could help you. And we're usually getting back with people within about 24 to 48 hours. So it's very, very quickly. And I just hope that people reach out, because right now the premiums for gold and silver are very, very low, and silver is available. And that could change in an instant. And it does.
Beverly Hills Precious Metals Exchange is a client-focused firm devoted to assisting our clients with precious metals. Our clients range from first-time to serious coin collectors and investors seeking to add precious metals to their investment portfolios. We are not interested in volatile investments, leveraged products, and intangible assets. With rising inflation and the devaluing of the dollar hurting middle-class families, investing in gold and silver ensures protection for your hard-earned money. Save the value of your money today by investing in gold and silver at Beverly Hills Precious Metals.
So people should reach out right away.
So you get it physically, like I have, non-reportable, and it's easy to store. The other thing is the timing. We talk about this, the 10%. Once the 10% hits, what happens? Bo calls it your beach moment.
Oh, absolutely. It's estimated that about 2% of Americans right now understand the value that gold and silver can have as far as protecting your assets. It's really just such a minuscule percentage of Americans. And it's my belief that if that 2% can jump to 10%, that could happen for just a very, very, like any geopolitical event that happens here close to the States, as the dollar starts to continue to collapse, that 2% of woke Americans can change to about 10%. When that happens, those 10% will buy up every ounce of gold and silver that you can physically own. And that's going to create a demand so high, like Bo and I always talk about, that's going to, the premiums will go so high, the spot prices will go so high that I won't know what to sell it for. I'll just have to take a step back and just close up shop and just head to the beach and just wait a day or two until I can understand what the current pricing is, how much it's going to cost, and how much of it can I get. And more importantly, how long will people have to wait to receive the shipments that they've already paid for? Mm-hmm. So right now it's available.
Another thing you want to take into consideration too is when this event goes down, right? The dollar, because what we're literally talking about is the collapse of Mystery Babylon, right? When the dollar loses its status as the world reserve currency, it's not the dollar anymore that we grew up with. That's critical to understand. It's no longer the world reserve currency, which means what? The world's going to revert back to what it's always known to be money for thousands of years, gold and silver. So as much as Andrew's going to maybe try to help you get some metals, he may not be able to source them. Mm-hmm. I'm going to repeat that. Andrew may not be able to source the metals because the demand will be so great that everybody's trying to buy up the precious metals because they want to get their hands on them, so that 10% might become 50%. Because the world is now going to wake up to what gold and silver is, money for thousands of years. So I don't think 10% is realistic. I think it's going to immediately go 10, 20, 30, 40, 50% very, very quickly. And then anybody who's going to sell precious metals is going to basically be able to ask whatever they want for them, because no, there can be very few sellers. Or you might be able to buy a few ounces here or there, but you're not going to be able to buy quantity. That's the key. You will not be able to buy quantity because it's all bought up.
And here's the
And
other problem
that's
is
critical to understand.
the other problem is we've talked about many times, and you get all these used car salespeople come out of the woodwork, and I'll get you this, and it won't be the right deal. And Andrew, you've been doing this 30 some years.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
they sell you gold and silver
Yeah.
that's plated. Go
Yep.
ahead, Ann. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, people should be wary of those type of calls. Exactly, Pastor Dave. It's when people call you and say, "Look, we just bought a lot of 30,000 piece silver dollars that they found in the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. They've been sitting there for 85 years, and they just have this pitch of why you need to get it and how it's a limited time and you won't be able to get it for much longer." You know, gold and silver have been around for thousands of years. They're going to be here unless we see an event like we're talking about, where the dollar loses its reserve currency status, the world's reserve currency status. If that's lost, then that means all confidence is lost in the dollar. We're the biggest, best country in the world. And if the people that live in the best country in the world don't believe in the dollar, then it's got to be gold and silver that we're going to be holding.
I don't think we can even say if anymore, because it's already started. Russia's done it. The BRICS have done it. It's not if. It's already begun.
Let's run a couple of quick cycle timelines. Okay, so if the calculation is true, within 2 years of when the Saudi Russia agreement was signed, that'll be this end of August, right? So that'll be 2 years. So, and I'm not saying it's going to happen at the end of August. It can happen way before then. Okay, I'm going to give the viewers a couple really and ourselves a couple really important time points. Okay, first off, well, actually 3 important time points. Number one is 322, March 22nd. Okay, March 22nd, Pastor Dave, is 90 years to the precise day from the first concentration camp was opened.
Wow.
Okay, so that's the Skull and Bones number, and the evil elite, they love that number. The Yale University is based off of that 322, the Skull and Bones. Okay, so could there be a military conflict or attack around that time point? We don't know. Cycle charts are indicating we have a strong vertical move brewing for gold and silver and cryptocurrencies. Okay, so something could be happening then. So remember, like Andrew was saying, when a world event goes down, there's gold and silver are going to go vertical because of the nervousness that's created within the world. So we might see something being triggered around the 22nd into the end of the month of March. So those who are sitting on the fence, when this event goes down, if you sat on the fence to see, you're going to miss the train or the boat because it's going to sell out so quick, and there'll be no sellers selling anything. It's just going to, either you were in or you were out. But if you sat on the fence, you basically chose not to participate. Period. You're out. Okay. Another huge time point is the 15th of Nisan. 15th of Nisan is Passover, okay, and that's April 6th. Now, why I bring this up is because if God's going to intervene, what I've noticed is the prior 2 seals that opened, they opened on feasts, okay? So we have Purim coming up, but the biggie is Passover, okay? So if we're going to see a third seal, a financial event manifest, it would be when? It would be on a feast. Well, when's the next huge feast? Passover.
Yep.
Okay. Some crazy bullet points of what happened on Passover. Well, that's the big one, was the crucifixion of Jesus on Passover. Okay. That's the day Isaac was tricked to bless Jacob. Gideon's 300 was assembled. Angel of God killed 185 Assyrian soldiers. That's the day that Haman went to the king to try to convince him to kill all the Jews. This is the day that Daniel was thrown in a lion's den. And this is the day that King Belshazzar drank from the golden vessels. And that night, many, many Tekel offshore seeing his kingdom came to an end and he was destroyed. And lastly, Exodus. This was the day the angel of death visited Pharaoh and all the firstborn of Egypt. 15 Nissan, April 6. April 5 starts Passover. It goes all the way to April 13th. If there's a window of time where God could do something, it would be potentially Passover. I don't know. I'm just doing the math and pointing out things that happened on Passover. I'm telling you, Passover is huge, huge, huge. It's a huge feast for God. This is God's timeline. And then lastly, it took Israel from when they left Egypt. It took them 18 days to get to the Red Sea. They camped there for another 8 days. They crossed at the 25th day, and Pharaoh was destroyed on the 25th day. Based on the calculations that I was able to put together, that would be May 1.
Wow.
So anywhere April into May, something crazy is expected to go down here. And then lastly, we're looking for the birth of a new era. So the birth of a new era, meaning the kingdom economy, the God's kingdom, thy kingdom come, the fall of Babylon, the fall of the statue. So the math calculations point to we're supposed to be there by the end of June or the summer solstice. Okay. And so the calculation for that is Rosh Hashanah, September 25. You mentioned at the beginning of this presentation.
Yep.
Well, if the child would be birthed, the delivery date would be 9 months. And so 9 months from September 25 is June 25. So starting in July, we're supposed to be in a new era, which means that all heck broke loose between March, especially April, May, into June. So the next 4 months are expected to be just truly mind-blowing as we head into the end of June. So, those who are sitting on the fence, choose wisely, because if you're sitting on the fence, you will realize you end up choosing poorly, because there is sitting on the fence is basically not doing anything. And so we're so close. I just, wanted to give the viewers a time windows to look at here. We're so close to God intervening, if he's going to intervene this year.
Andrew, I'll let you talk about what they should do next. But we've been talking about this for 2 years, and if people don't see the birth pains and everything speeding up since the last 2 years, I mean, it's happening faster and faster and faster.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like to Bo's point about sitting on the sidelines. If rather than sit on the sidelines, if people were to invest into gold and silver, and if a certain amount of time were to go by, whether it be a month or 6 months or a year, if you decided that it was something that you didn't feel that you needed to do, like after the fact, you can always sell it back. It's not a permanent decision.
Right.
It's just like we always say, Pastor Dave, we're just taking our green dollars, converting them into gold and silver, which is another currency, and you can always convert it back if you need to. So this isn't a permanent situation where if a year later you regret that decision, it's not the end of the world. You just simply convert it back. But it's better to get it while you can than to be bandwagoned into getting it in some desperate situation like we saw back in 2011. Like Bo was saying, gold and silver at that point, when gold and silver topped out, were very difficult to get, and people were paying huge premiums and waiting 3, 4, 5 weeks sometimes to receive their product. Yep. And that's okay as long as you have an established dealer that can help you with these transactions. But if you're trying somebody new at that time, there's a great deal of risk and there's a lot of fraud that happens. So go with someone that's vouched for by people that you believe in, like anyone with the His Glory family. I feel like you can't go wrong.
General Flynn, matter of fact, I'm gonna probably pick up some more too, because I know it's happening and I feel it happening. So. Yep. Andrew and Bo, again, thank you for coming on. It's always a great privilege and treat to have you both on, putting the Bible and finances and the world events all together. It's an amazing time to live that we're in.
Well, thanks for having us. It's a pleasure. I hope to be back soon.
All right, guys.
Thank you, Pastor Dave.
Take care.
Thank you, Andrew. God bless everybody. Thank you.
Take care.
All right, that wraps up our interview with Andrew Sorchini with Beverly Hills Precious Metals and Bo Polny. We're going into some turbulent times, but we know God has it, light winds. And I know I hear this a lot from people. If you don't have the means to do it, don't worry about it. Trust in God. God is the only way through all of this. But if you do, and you have some that's sitting on the fence, use it, and you want to use it for God's kingdom, which many people were talking to me about in Israel about. You know what? They've lived their lives, and the only thing calling on their heart right now is to do stuff for the kingdom. And that's where we're at in this moment in time, for such a time as this, is doing things for the kingdom, to reach souls for his purpose and his glory. Because you know what? Silver and gold you can't take to heaven with you. Only our riches that we store up in Christ Jesus that matter. The silver and gold is just to be able to reach the world for his purpose and his glory. God bless you all, and go in shalom.